This episode of Walt Disney World Today is being sponsored by Owner's Locker, which is perfect for the Len Testas of the world who need a steady stream of Jim Beam even when they're on vacation. Your Owner's Locker is perfect for storing liquor, as well as other essential vacation products like ponchos, shorts, bathing suits, shampoo, and pretty much anything else you can cram in there. It's a great service that I personally use, although not for alcohol, on most of my trips. So why don't you go on, give it a try. Visit them at www.ownerslocker.com.
This is Walt Disney World Today. Give us 5 minutes and we'll give you the world.
And it's Monday, March 17th, 2008. This is episode 384 of Walt Disney World Today. I'm Matt Hochberg from StudioCentral.com. On the show today, we have Mr. Liquor himself, Len Testa, co-author of the Unofficial Guide to Walt Disney World. Hi, Len.
How's it going, Matt?
Outstanding. Also on the show today, we have Mike Scopa of allears.net. Welcome, Mike.
Captain Hook, First Blood.
Oh, that's the animation, Magic of Disney Animation with the old video with Walter Cronkite and Robin Williams.
Right, it was Robin Williams who uttered those 4 words.
Very nice. Also on the show today, we have Mike Newell of Mouse World Radio. Hi, Mike.
Oh, Matt, it's great to have you on the show today on this very special St. Patrick's Day.
I forgot it was St. Patty's Day now.
It surely is.
Sorry,
there, lad.
Top of the morning to you now.
Top of the morning to you, lad.
And the rest of the day for myself.
And also on the show today, we have Michelle Scribner-McLean, who is a writer for allears.net. Welcome, Michelle.
Hello, gentlemen.
Hello.
And,
Okay, man.
and also on the show today, we also have Soundboard Len. Welcome, Soundboard Len.
Howdy ho, Matt. Nice.
Good to have you
Other side
back,
of the room.
Soundboard Len.
Really?
Yeah, it is good to have you back. So on today's show, we have actually a show topic that was suggested by one of our listeners, Nick, who wrote to us and said, I have an idea for a future podcast I'd like to share with you all. This idea came to me based on a thread on the Walt Disney World Magic forums that I frequent. I'm a teacher with back to school coming up. I'm bound to get parents asking me about taking their kids out of school to go to Walt Disney World. I think it would be fascinating for you guys to do a show about the pros and cons of this issue. You could have some teachers and parents discussing the issue. I think it would be informative for people to hear both sides of the argument and would probably make for an interesting discussion. I know at least one of your significant others is a teacher, and I'm sure she has an opinion on the subject as well. Nick, we would love to bring her on, but she's going to cost us our clean rating. So thank you for it's a great topic idea, and we've brought Michelle on, Michelle, now you have 2 children. What are their ages?
I have a 14-year-old and an 8-year-old.
Okay, and you have some sort of background in teaching, no?
Yes, actually, I have a lot of background. I used to teach 4th grade. I have my master's and doctorate in education, and I train pre-service teachers.
Okay, show off. Also, we have now, Newell, your wife is a teacher. What grade does she teach?
She teaches juniors and seniors in high school.
Okay, and we would try to have Mary on, but she just can't pass by the iTunes filter.
Yeah.
So Newell has spent many years with her, and we think he can best speak for her.
Yeah.
And also we should mention Mike Scope, but your wife is a teacher also. What grade does she teach?
My wife is a teacher assistant, and she works in the elementary school. And for those listeners who aren't aware, I also am a former teacher. I used to teach junior high school and high school English.
That's right, to Archimedes, right? That was your first student?
Archimedes, yeah. Yeah.
Back when the alphabet only had 14 letters, so it was easy.
That's right. Yeah.
What's this J that you people want to include?
So let's talk about bringing kids out of school. But this is really a touchy subject for a lot of people. I'll start off, and I said when I was growing up, my parents would often pull me out of school for trips. Now, here's the caveat to this, and this is what I would recommend for anyone, really. This is my point of view. It's quite simply, if you're going to take kids out of school, there's 2 things you have to do. One is you have to give the teacher advance notice so that the child can get the work that they're going to be missing. And 2, you have to have confidence in your child that they're doing well in class, they're not behind, and that they're going to be able to make up the work. And you, as the parent, need to ensure that they're going to keep up with the work. I think that's really the key. And this is really for it's much easier. I don't want to go too much into this. I want to get some other opinions in there, but I really think that that's my basis of my viewpoint. Scope, what do you think?
Oh, brother. It's a very delicate topic. Personally, I think that there are many opportunities over the course of the year for parents to take their kids to Walt Disney World. I think that there is absolutely no excuse for taking them out of the classroom. I think that kids have too much on their hands enough as it is these days. And I personally think there's no excuse. If I was a teacher and a parent came to me and said, we're going on vacation, well, I'm going to make sure that that child has a lot of work to do on that vacation, just to make sure that the child doesn't have to do catch up when he or she comes back. Because when you think of it from a teacher's perspective, when a few students leave because of that, they come back. Now the class has already, gone forward with some aspects of whatever subject that they have been going on over the last couple of days, and kids have to come back and they have to catch up. So it actually gives more work to the teacher too. So I think that's one thing. I'm in no way supportive of any parent that takes their kids out of school to go to Walt Disney World.
Michelle, what do you think?
Oh boy, we're going to do point counterpoint here. I just want to mention one thing before I tell you my opinion about this. And I go around to a lot of different school districts, and in many school districts now, the policy is that teachers do not have to give you work ahead of time. In fact,
Really?
It's an explicit policy in our school district that the work will be made up when you get back. So, and it's pretty typical. I disagree. I have taken my kids out, and I've had parents come to me and say, honestly, we're going on vacation. What do you think? And I think as long as it's no more than a week, that traveling is a terrific way to learn about the world. They can learn about what happens at airports. At the very minimum, they can learn about different climates. They can learn about so many different things at Disney World. And I think travel is terrific. Missing a week.
They
is
can
not that
travel
big a deal.
during the summer. They can travel during the February vacation. They can travel during they've got all this vacation time to do that.
That's true, but we know, with all we know about Disney World, there are times that it's better to go. There are times that it's more affordable. And for the family who it's a make or break deal, I say, go on the trip and I will support you in any way I can when you come back.
That's right. I think I agree with. I think the other thing is also you brought up a very good point, Michelle. Certainly no longer than a week. I mean, after that, you're talking like that's not a vacation. That's like you're dropping out of school temporarily. So I think that's a very good point to bring up, and I think that couldn't agree with you more. Have I mentioned that you look quite beautiful tonight, Michelle?
Thank you, Matthew. I think that if students are going to be absent for more than a week, it's a totally different story, because when you have to make up 2 weeks or a month's worth of work, it's very difficult for the students to keep up. But if it's a week, they should be able to do it. And I think that your point earlier about the student being in good standing in the classroom, if the student's struggling, you certainly wouldn't want to take them out for a week. But,
Absolutely.
If they're able to keep up, I don't think it's a big deal.
Now, Len, how old is your daughter?
9.
And you've taken her out of school in the past, right?
Only for weddings or family weddings and stuff, and only I think once or maybe only once. We make her go to school.
Okay, so are you pro this or against this topic?
I mean, I could see missing maybe a Friday, but an entire week would be difficult. I just can't see missing that much school. It wouldn't even come up in conversation in our house. It wouldn't even be an option. So it's not that I don't think it's right for everyone. It's just that I don't think missing that much school during the week during the school year is good. I mean, there's how many weeks of school? Like 36. You're essentially missing like 3% of the school year.
I think really what it comes down to is also what grade they're in, because when they're in the higher grades, middle school, certainly high school, you get a lot more workload that comes into it, and that can be a bigger problem. But in lower grades, below middle school, I mean, really, they have a lot more time because they're dealing with usually one particular teacher for the entire year. I think that the workload is far less demanding, and it can be more easily addressed.
Okay. Now I got to come in and make a point, and that is that you're right, Matt, that when they're younger, it may not make a big deal, but there's more to it than just the education that comes into play here. Children are impressionable, and if they get the impression that you as a parent do not value the education as much as your vacation, that may send a wrong signal to the child too.
I
think
absolutely
it's
agree with that, Mike.
And that is part of this whole thing. You can't just view this in a vacuum with education. There's more to it than that. It's a sense of priority. It's a sense of responsibility, and that's where I have a problem. Now, if you're talking like the first 3 days of Thanksgiving week, I'm not opposed to that. But if you're taking a child out in September or October or January or February, it's a completely different story. I wanted to make that point clear.
Well, let me throw this out there. I don't think that the message that a parent is sending is, this place, that place you go in the daytime, waste of time, kid. Let's go smoke some cigarettes and go down to Disney World. It's not, it's not like, what I'm saying is what the parent has to do is have a talk with the child, say, look, we're thinking about taking some time off here. Are you okay with taking a week off? But listen.
What's the kid going to say? No, but this is. I want to go to school and do fractions.
I think that's a very good point.
No, because what I'm going to say here is that you have to sit the kid down and say, look, there's going to be a lot of work you're going to have to make up. Are you okay with this? We're going to, when we're at nighttime, when we come back from the parks, you're going to be doing homework. You're going to be reading, and you're going to be doing the work. Are you okay with this? Because I don't want to have to fight with you later. And this is the kind of conversation you have to have with your child. And if they give you like, then, hey, maybe it's not a great idea. But a lot of kids are willing to take on the responsibility. And certainly if they're made aware of what's going to be what's required of them, I think it really does play into it quite a bit.
I wanted to say that you look very handsome tonight, too, because I agree with your point about including the students in the decision, because when they get a little bit older, they do have after-school activities, and I think that can impact the decision. And they should be part of the decision-making process. So they may not want to go. And
they don't. I agree. Only in that kids should be part of the decision-making process after the decision has been made. Like you tell them what they need to do.
Yeah.
they're kids.
We call it a benevolent dictatorship in our house.
It's noblesse oblige, right? Yeah. Exactly.
But I think another point too is that you need to be honest with the teacher. In modeling for your kids, you shouldn't say, we're going to say that you have the flu for a week. You need to be very honest with the teacher. We're going away. And like your support about this.
Now, Newell, I know that before we started recording, I think your wife had mentioned a particular point that she doesn't want to be responsible for the child. Could you kind of elaborate on that point?
Well, her thing about it is that if you ask the teacher that you're taking your child out and you're going, that teacher now has to do twice the work, because not only does she have to prepare a lesson for the week, once that child comes back, she has to grade that lesson again. So it's adding additional work for the teacher that the teacher is not really responsible for.
I can hear Mary talking.
I can hear a little.
I turned her down just in case.
Hey, Mary,
get hold on a second.
It's never been that big a deal for me. Students have gone away, and I've said, great. It doesn't seem to be that big a deal. If it were 12 people going away at once, it would.
Now let me also throw this out there, in that although I'm advocating that it's okay to take your kids out of school, it's not okay to take your kids out of school every month. A lot of times, when you take your child out of school during one school year, it should be, I would say, once, maybe twice. And other than that, I mean, not including like a Len Testa type of wedding or whatever.
I only try to do one of those a year, so it's
one of those a year.
I thought you were already married. No, I think one week a year. 1 week a year would be the absolute maximum. I wouldn't say even 2 weeks.
Okay, fair enough. Scopa, back to you.
Sorry. I'm going to get in trouble when I say this, but I think we're giving too much credit to the parents. The parents may not realize whether or not their child can handle, a few days off or a week off from the from the classroom. And I think that sometimes it doesn't really matter what the teacher thinks. The parents are going to will take their child off. They've made arrangements, they've made reservations. They don't really care. So I think that the parents take responsibility for what happens with their child's education in this matter. That's all.
And I'm going to just say something from the perspective of somebody who teaches an upper level class, because
Newell sure has changed his voice.
I teach physics, and when I have a kid who's out, and it does happen, not only do I have to put together lessons, they miss labs, which means after school I have to reset up a lab and run a lab with them. It also means that they're coming in after school to get help, which is fine, except that they're taking time away. My physics kids are there before classes in the morning, after classes. I never get away from them. They're taking time away from kids who were in the class doing what they were supposed to do. And I have to take time away from them to deal with a kid who's been in Disney or somewhere else for a week. And I have a problem with that.
I agree with you in there, and I said that earlier, is that higher level children, it's a lot harder to do when you're talking about middle school and certainly high school, because you're doing a lot of those other things. Mary, can I ask you, in your school district, do you have like semesters or trimesters where like the student has different courses at different semesters? You know what I mean? Like they'll have physics for like half the year or a third of the year?
We have both. So we have one semester classes and full year classes. Physics is a full year. I also teach a forensics, which is a half year.
Wow, thank God I didn't go to Mary Newell School.
And so those block level classes would be about 90 minutes, right, Mary?
The lab, I have a 90-minute period, 90-minute period every other day, and a 40-minute period every other day. So it goes 40, then 90, 40, 90, 40, 90, like that. So if my kid, and sometimes I lecture through both, so a kid who's out for a week is actually missing 8 class periods of physics.
Yeah, that's
a lot to miss.
Yeah. And I have to tell you that I've had kids who've done it. I have spoken to the parents beforehand and told them, your kid's struggling. This is going to be it for them for the year. And they have come back and failed the Regents because they've missed material and they were already on the line and they just can't catch up.
Mary, why don't you also mention, not every state has the Regents, or a similar type exam. Why don't you quickly summarize what that is?
Well, the Regents is just... it's the state exam. It's like almost, I don't want to say proficiency because it's a little above that level, but it's the state standard test for physics. But the truth is that any school is going to have a final exam that the kids have to be prepared for, even if it's not a state exam.
Scopa?
I just want to say, Mary Newell, you look ravishing today.
That's besides the point. Come on, let's not go down that road. So Len, your daughter's 8, 9?
9, still.
9. Yeah. What do you foresee in the future? Are a possibility where you would take your daughter out of school? Or are you totally against it and it's not going to happen as long as you're in charge?
I might do it. I might do it for the the occasional day, but it would depend on circumstances. Our end of grade testing is in May for North Carolina. So anytime after that would be fine, because pretty much there's nothing left that you're going to do that's going to be of consequence the last 2 weeks of the year, at least in North Carolina. But we actually we have an annual father-daughter trip to Disney World, and I plan that specifically for 2 days after school gets out, because again there's no point in missing school if you don't have to. And Disney World's always going to be there. Yeah, it's going to be a little bit more crowded during summer, and it's going to be a little bit more expensive. But would you miss a week of school for that if you had the choice? And I understand you don't always have the choice, right? Again, there's weddings, there's sometimes extracurricular activities that are in Walt Disney World, things like championships or cheerleading championships or something like that. If it's the choice of doing that where it's maybe a once every couple year event, I could kind of see my way to saying that. But just for a regular trip to Walt Disney World, scheduled during summer when everyone is going.
Newell, one of you?
As a single, we don't have children.
As a single man.
As a single man without children. No, the whole point of taking the kids out of school too also has changed what was called the off season. Now you go anytime throughout the year, anytime, and there is plenty of people. Back in the day, you had that off season where you can go in October and there would be nobody there, and it was terrific. Now you go mid-October, there's kids everywhere.
Yeah, I think your point is that the reason to take your kids out of school, namely going during off season, there aren't as many. The off season isn't as good as it used to be. That being said, I will take any off season as opposed to going to Disney World in the summertime or during Christmas week.
Right, but
But there are also things that you can't see when school is out, such as the Flower and Garden Festival that we like to go to every year.
Star Wars weekends. Hello.
Star Wars.
Hello.
Right.
I don't go during the school year.
Yeah, I mean, wait, if you're a teacher, you don't get to go during the school year either.
I have to arrange my schedule so that I can be in school. And I arranged my surgery so that I wouldn't miss school. I arranged my vacations so that I don't miss school. The teachers would prefer to go in October also. You know, I mean, I would like to take a week off school in the middle of the year and just go, but I can't do it. And
let me ask you this, Mary. Is there a time of the year that's more conducive? I mean, Len mentioned a couple days before Thanksgiving, and that's certainly true because that tends to wind down. But are there times of the year generally where it tends to wind down a little bit, kind of a transitionary time, or perhaps a time where just there's a lull? You know what I mean in the schedule?
If you're in the upper level science classes, there is no such thing as a lull. There just isn't.
Enough.
Now, again, I don't support taking the kid out, but I certainly have less of a problem when it's one of my A students than when it's the kid running a 67 or a 68 average.
You are absolutely right. If you're, and I think Michelle, you mentioned it before. If your child is struggling, and by struggling, it doesn't have to be someone who's potentially failing, just not doing well. I think that you have to definitely recognize. But if they're doing well in school, I think that it's certainly worth taking the child out. Anyone for a last point here?
Well, boy, I hope we get some email on this. I know that we probably won't, but
I think it's the same with when we talked about having your kids in the park alone. It's got to be every family's decision. They have to decide on their own.
Yeah,
best.
You should do take your kids out of school and leave them in the parks alone.
and go eat somewhere. Yeah.
Go eat somewhere. Exactly.
So do you keep your soul in a box?
that was from back in the day, man.
Very good. Thank you, Soundboard Len. And that's it for us today. Once again, this episode of Walt Disney World Today has been sponsored by Owner's Locker, and it's perfect for when you take your kids out of school or when you don't. You leave them at home also, when you come during vacation. Owner's Locker is a great service that I use on all of my trips to Walt Disney World, so why not give it a try? Visit them at www.ownerslocker.com. And if you want to find our older episodes, read our show notes, or send us your comments, visit the Walt Disney World Today website at wdwtoday.com. But don't forget to visit the Walt Disney World Today wiki at wdwtoday.com, right on the right-hand side. See the link right there. For Len Testa, Mike Scopa, Mike and/or Mary Newell, and Michelle Scribner-McLean, I'm Matt Hotchberg. We'll see you on the next show.
This has been a production of Mouse World Radio.